Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live streaming event for today. And we want to say hello to all of the visitors here that are taking advantage of the freeness of this event. We meet regularly twice a month and do this for an hour and a half, more or less. That's usually what it comes to. And so we welcome all of you wherever you are around the world. This is a global event. We have people from Australia and the United States, Canada, Europe, India, I believe. We've got a little web building around the planet here of all of you that are subscribing. And hopefully some of you who are visiting today will consider joining us. This is Kenneth Berenson, my co-host, and the person who allows me not to think about technical issues, which I'm very grateful for always. So what we'll do today is we will, I'm going to bring Ananda through first. They're my guides and teachers. I will, obviously, for the people who know me very well, I will be explaining a few things that I don't normally explain. So Ananda and are my guides and teachers, and they began channeling through me in 2012. And Jesus began channeling through me in 2013. I had a year-long training program with Ananda before they let me in on the secret that I would be channeling Jesus. And they told me that if they had told me in the beginning that I would be channeling Jesus, that I would have declined the job. So they gave me a year to get used to the idea and get used to them. So I will take a breath and Ananda will come through and introduce themselves to the new people. And what we're going to do today is just let Ananda and Jesus speak to the new folks and obviously to our regular subscribers. And then Ken's going to field the questions to Ananda and Jesus from our public question selection process, we'll say. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. We're with you again, dear ones, and we say welcome, welcome to all of the new beings who are gathered here today to share in this experience. We are Ananda. We are a group consciousness. That means there are many, many beings behind this singular voice. It is not one voice, even though that is how it appears to you. We are not masculine or feminine. We are a beautiful blend of many, many beings of different kinds, from different places, different times. We do not specify too much about that because the minds in which you inhabit have a tendency to hook on to particular things that you like or dislike. So we are a little vague always when we explain who we are. But we are here to assist you in your ascension process. And that is what all of these broadcasts are designed to do. They are designed to expand your mind, expand your consciousness, expand your beliefs about what reality is, what is possible, and how to function within this 3D realm in which you find yourselves. Of course, we are not in the 3D realm that you find yourselves in, although some are what you would consider living at your time in your time-space reality. But whoever is in that situation within our group is a highly evolved consciousness that is not attached to physical form. And this, of course, is one of the great handicaps of your time on this earth plane right now. You have been taught to overly value the body, and you have been highly encouraged through your mass media systems to focus on the material as a place to get what you want, rather than going inside and learning how to manage your, your energies and your minds. You have been taught to shop, you have been taught to eat, you have been taught to fight, you have been taught to argue, you have been taught to purchase material things in an effort to get a feeling from those experiences. So we are here to help redirect you to the interior world where everything is manufactured or created. So we are also here to encourage you to train your minds through the practice of forgiveness as designated in A Course in Miracles. So that is the path that we ask you to follow if you are drawn to. So we will address this issue right now. There is not only one path to awakening, but there are paths that are quicker and slower. There are paths that are designed for Eastern minds and Western minds. There are many different pathways. And we are here to encourage you, those of you that are curious about this path, to listen to your guidance system that has made you curious about this path. Some beings who join in this group and begin to study A Course in Miracles get very upset that they don't like it, that it's challenging, that it's forcing them to do something that they seemingly don't want to do. But it is very much a path of freedom through discipline. When you are disciplined through a practice that is in alignment with truth, you are able to discern what your experience is more clearly. And that is really what this is all about. We are not asking you to hand over your free will. We are asking you to train your mind so that you can actually discern what your will is. And this is the confusion that many beings have at the beginning of their encounter with A Course in Miracles. They think they're being forced against their will to do something. And of course, that is not our purpose. If you really don't want to do it, don't do it. Keep experiencing what you're experiencing. But the truth of the matter for most of humanity at this time is that what you have been taught already doesn't make you feel very good. And so there is an understanding through your visceral experience that the lessons you've been taught aren't working for you, and they certainly aren't working for your world, your planet. And that is what we want to draw your attention to. The state of your world is a demonstration of the interior condition of your collective minds. And so in pure non-dualism, there is no world, there is no body, there is no you, there is no a 3D reality. And that is a very, very difficult pill to swallow for all of you. So we bring non-dualistic teachings into your dualistic belief systems and your dualistic experience bit by bit, so that you can become adjusted and accustomed to a new way of looking at your experience and your consciousness. So that is what the books that we have written through this being are designed to do. And for those of you that have not yet read her books, we suggest that you do, because these meetings online are supplements to all of the information in those books. There are many detailed discussions and accounts of many different things in those books. And it is very important for you to understand that they are put in book form for a particular reason. So YouTube videos have become a very, very popular way of learning about spirituality and spiritual teachings. But there is something very different that goes on in the mind when you are sitting quietly, perhaps in a window in your home, and you've got a nice cup of tea or something, and you are quietly reading a book. There is a focusing and narrowing of consciousness that allows that information to be put into a different part of your physical brain structure. It develops different pockets of knowledge because you are so focused in the reading process. So we want you to understand that if you've decided to skip over the reading part, that it is not going to benefit your evolution. to only listen and watch audio-visual demonstrations. We use these audio and visual demonstrations, first of all, because they are fun for us and they are fun for you. And we use them because this is the trend in your society. So we must jump on trends in your society so that we access as many minds as possible. And that is why we are very happy that you are all here, those of you that are not regular subscribers. And of course, our darling subscribers, we love you all very much, and we are with you always, as you know. And this is the opportunity that the new visitors can entertain as they are viewing this transmission. The idea that we begin to work with each of you individually, raising your frequency whilst you're in this communal setting, but also beginning to work with you individually in your own homes, in your own inner world. That is where we will begin to hang out with you if you give us permission and if you allow us to become part of your consciousness on a regular basis. Our dear one has a beautiful relationship with us, and she allows us to guide her very, very clearly every day. And she knows that if she's interested in something or something is appealing to her, she knows that that's us pushing her towards that particular experience. And that is the truth for all of you. All of you have guides and teachers that are nudging you towards particular experiences. But because of the deep indoctrinations of your education systems, your family, cultural, and religious teachings, those teachings are far more powerful often, and you will favor those rather than those that small voice inside that says, change your job, go part-time, take that trip, go for a walk, phone that person. Your social conditioning will often prevent you from listening to that small voice. So this is what we are about. We are about quieting and retraining the mind from the conditioned systems of your religions and your families and your cultures, not so that you abandon them, but so that you cease abandoning yourself. Because that is what a lot of you are doing. You are not listening to your own guidance. You are listening to the guidance of others who do not have your best interests at heart. So we are Ananda. We will give our dear one a chance to sip her drink, and Jesus will come back with his introductory statement for the visitors. We will return shortly.
Cool. Yeah, I just have to say welcome everyone too. I just like these interactions because and also the whole study program that Tina is kind of bringing forth with her books and the Course of Miracles, because I've gone through the whole thing in the Course of Miracles and Tina's books, and I feel like after now 2 years from doing that, I feel like I can connect more easily with my own guidance, and I feel like I can communicate better with them, and I can discern what's spirit and what's ego or my trained mind. And that's been my greatest gift. And it's still a process to continue to hear and continue to do that, because now it's almost like I have a discernment of what that feels like and sounds like. And then of course, if you continue the way you always have, or I always have, I will not really hear that voice again. I will hear the ego. So it's always this kind of dance between what are you listening to, what is your focus, what you actually want. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. And now I'll bring Jesus through, and we'll see what he has to say.
Cool.
You are blessed beings. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and these are important times for you to have support. You can see the revolution that is taking place on your planet is causing quite a few ripples around the world, whether it is mass arrests or accusations of misconduct or political shenanigans. There is a lot going on your world right now. And this ascension process is long in the making. So this is what I want to speak to you about now. The teachings that I brought to the earth 2,000 years ago, when I was physically incarnated in a body such as you have, there was a preparation for the ascension process being made back then. Now, in your minds, 2,000 years is a long time, but time does not work as you believe it does. And we cannot demonstrate that right now with the consciousness that you hold as a collective. There is an obsession with time and a valuing of time, an intense focus on aging and these kinds of things. And these practices of always knowing what time it is, believing that aging is bad or believing in aging in and of itself. These are the beliefs and structures that prevent you from seeing time, seeing the passage of experience in a different way. But it is different that you believe it to be. But this teaching that I am bringing through this being and many other beings that I'm channeling through at this time is the same teaching that I brought to the earth plane 2,000 years ago in preparation for this time. Why has it taken so long? What is the purpose of ascension? What is the purpose of forgiveness? These are all questions that you will be having in your minds. And we address these over time. Obviously, we have these wonderful opportunities to share these expressions of consciousness through these live streaming events, and other teachers and other channels that have raised their consciousness up to the level of the frequency with which we beam out this information. For that is what it is. It is an alignment of frequency. And that means that if you are broadcasting on a very different frequency than the teachers and ascended masters and highly evolved beings that are out of your vision, seemingly out of your experience, then you will have trouble connecting with them. And so the teachings that I brought through into the earth plane so many years ago, and the teachings that are the same and that I'm bringing through now through this being and through the books and transmissions that she's so kindly facilitating, these teachings are all about getting your frequency up higher than where it is. And your ruling classes have been working very hard to keep your frequencies down so that you cannot make that connection, so that you cannot get direct conscious contact with highly evolved consciousness and highly evolved beings, so that you can be guided in your behavior, so that you can be helped up the ladder of frequency to the ascension goal, we will say. Now, 2,000 years in your time is a lot. And if you look at your histories, you will see that there has been oppressive regime after oppressive regime working to keep the average person in a place of scarcity, in a place of fear, in a place of powerlessness. And it is not your imagination. This has been a systematic and repeated pattern of control using fear, mind control, and punishment, even to death, for not conforming. It was no different when I was on the earth plane so many years ago. People were put to death for disagreeing with the oppressive regime that was in power at that time. And you will see that it's not so different now. People get into a lot of trouble if they rattle the cage too much. But what we want you to know is that this is the end of a spiritual season. And for all of those of you that are new, that are visiting us here, we want to explain that. It is not something to fear. It is what was anticipated 2,000 years ago. And it is what has driven the powers that be in your society to continue to keep you in fear, with the intention of preventing you from transforming your experience through the ascension process into the next spiritual season. So if you envision your weather on your planet, you know that spring follows winter, and summer follows spring, and autumn follows summer, and winter comes again. These are the small indicators for you of the greater systems and structures within your universe. So there are systems, there are seasons that get longer and longer and longer. You are used to your weather seasons. And of course, in the spring, you know that summer's coming. You know that if you have a garden, for example, you will need to prepare it and weed it in preparation for planting. Well, in spiritual seasons, we do the same thing. We know what is coming. We know that there is the end of a spiritual season coming many, many, many years before that is the case. And at the end of that spiritual season, when there is a reconciliation of sorts, just like when you come to the end of your summer and you harvest your fruits and your vegetables and your carrots and your potatoes, and you look at that harvest and you say, well, that crop didn't grow very well because, well, I didn't amend that soil in that part of the garden and it was not nourished enough. In another part, another fruit or vegetable may have become infested with a bug, and you didn't pay attention to it and you didn't nurture it, and so the fruits are distorted or rotten. Well, this is what the end of this spiritual season is about, the same kind of assessment, not in a hateful way, not in a fearful way, not in a truly judgmental way, but purely assessing how this spiritual season has gone. And that is the ascension process. The ascension process is your opportunity to undo any of the neglect that you have been participating in, neglecting yourself, for example, neglecting being loving to yourself, being overly aggressive, forcing others to do things that you want to do, being overly materialistic. This is a wonderful time to reassess how money and material objects either control you or motivate you, or whether or not you are in fact in alignment with the non-physical. So at the end of a spiritual season, that assessment is made by the frequency you hold. It is not done to you by anybody else. It is not designated to make you a good person or a bad person. It is merely a frequency assessment to say, do you advance into the next spiritual season at a different level, or do you repeat the last spiritual season because you have not mastered the many things that you are required to master to move on? What is the great thing that you are required to master to move on? You are required to master love in all its forms, in all its different manifestations, your fears about love, your willingness to love. And we have, with this being, written a book about love so that you can define it properly. Because in your society, you don't define love properly. It has become distorted by misteachings. It has become overly focused on members of the opposite sex. It has become something that is very narrow in your definition, when in actual fact, its definition is incredibly broad and multifaceted. So we are here with other beings of like mind to love you. We are here to offer as much information as we can to help you assess the situations and the relationships and the bodies and the economies and the countries in which you find yourselves. This is our gift to you, but it is only a gift if you take it and open it up and employ it in your life. It is not a gift if you look at it and say, no thanks, I know what I'm doing. I've got this sorted. And we say, well done. If you feel that way and your life is looking the way you like and your feelings are joyful and happy, then you are on the right track, and we may not have anything to teach you. But for most of you, we understand that there are great conflicts and fears arising in the mind. There are difficulties in everyday life of earning enough money or feeling secure and safe in your own body, minds, and your own homes. And so we invite you to join us on these conversations so that you may expand your mind, expand your consciousness, and elevate your frequency up into the realms where you can indeed communicate with us easily, daily, whenever you feel the need. And trust us, life is a lot easier when you have direct conscious contact with beings of high frequency who love you and wish to assist you in your ascension journey. We will return shortly.
Wow. Should we just go straight on to questions?
Yes, we can.
Time, which may be an illusion. Okay, so this is from John. I want to ask Jesus, what about sexual orientation? As to be gay is a sin, and you will burn in hell, and those name and the name of God. I know it's a lie, but many parents, because of this, they don't accept their children and they hate them. In result, they feel shame and guilt, and many suicides. What people can do with their parents? Don't care? Question mark.
Okay.
Thanks.
See what Jesus says.
Yeah.
We smile at this terrible, terrible situation, not because we don't care, but because we love all of you so much. And we see the confusing teachings that have been shared in my name. This was one of the great purposes of coming through at this time, to reclaim my name. I did not choose another name. This name Jesus that you encounter in your biblical stories and in your transcriptions from other tongues, and the name that has been used by the church to commit some of these terrible, terrible misteachings, is being used to bring up these teachings. When other names for me are used, whether it's my real name, Yeshua, whether it is another name, Sananda, there are a few others, they do not bring up this association with the church and the teachings that that institution has spread so vociferously around your planet. So Jesus is a name that has been misused. Jesus is a name that has been employed to inflict suffering upon children and women and people of other sexual orientations. And that is why I am here to assure you that there is no such judgment being employed from spirit or that which you would call God on any of you. This physical experience, this body experience, remember, it is a demonstration of your belief in separation and judgment. This is something that is very important for you to understand as you evolve from the dualistic beliefs of your 3D world into the higher frequencies that we are inviting you to join us in. Bodies are not made by God in the sense that you have all believed it. They are a demonstration of your individual belief in separation. And so they manifest many, many low frequency experiences when the body is focused on. So these are complete thought systems. The thought system of the non-physical love realm is a completely different thought system than the physical, material, ego-driven, body-driven world in which many of you find yourselves, and which has been overly emphasized. So when you focus on what bodies do with each other, you are down in that physical realm. And down in that physical realm is the feeling of separation, is the feeling of power over, power under, judgment. These are all associated with the physical body. Now, this does not mean that the physical body cannot be used by the higher realms, the higher ideals, the higher frequencies. It can be and is. Once you begin to train your mind to focus on love, once you begin to train your mind to focus on forgiveness, once you step away from this this intense focus on the physical, the body becomes a device that is used for the expression of love. And so this is the way to escape the judgmental, fearful, condemning frequency of judgment and fear that has been instilled in your society. Remember what we said in our previous comment. These focuses are designed to keep you fearful, shameful, guilt-ridden, angry, scared, aggressive, in separation. Why? Because you become empowered by love. Why? Because you become kinder and stronger and nicer and less willing to be controlled the more you are connected with the higher frequencies of spirit. So if the church can get you to judge another, you lose your connection to love and you feel shame or guilt or anger. You feel bad. The mistake you make is believing that you feel bad because you are a sinner, which is also what they teach. But the truth is you feel bad because you have judged either yourself or someone else. And that is why I taught you not to judge and teach you not to judge now. Because the second you judge, you are playing God. You are saying that person should not be the way they are. That person should not behave the way they're behaving. And in that moment, you step out of your loving nature. So your guidance system, your feeling self, resonates naturally at the frequency of love when you are in the higher realms of mind and thought. But in your world, there are many beings who come in. Remember, they're coming into a separated body. What does that separated body teach you? It means that the being that's housed in that body believes in separation in some way. And so there is an immediate suffering that starts as soon as you come into your physical separated body. And in your societies, with the poisonous teachings that the church has inflicted upon humanity for a very long time, parents immediately begin to shame or judge or control that little spirit's self-expression. So homosexuality is an experience of energy. It is an experience of attraction and naturally occurring in the human experience, we will say. There are many different kinds of affection and physical interaction in other animal systems. You will see it playing out. There are many studies where scientists have observed other animals exhibiting what they would consider homosexual behavior. This often happens in stressful population situations where the natural balance of the particular group is being threatened because there's too many bodies for not enough food. And we will tell you that there is a physical aspect as well as a spiritual aspect to your sexual experience. So we are not saying that all homosexuality is determined by stressful physical environments, but it can be one of the prompts for that behavior to be considered by nature, and that means survival of the population. It can be considered a positive adaptive response to very stressful environments, overly populated or dysfunctional environments, in which increasing population would not serve the benefit of the whole. So in your sexual experiences, you have egoic expressions. All of you have egoic expressions, and you have the potential for spiritual expressions through the practice of love, which is a much more evolved experience than the egoic expression. So when you are trained in your society into extreme materialism, extreme physicality, obsession with the body, that frequency will naturally set the tone for judgment, fear, condemnation, shame, and guilt. When you begin to practice forgiveness, loving kindness, acceptance, your mind will be taken up in frequency above the heart into higher dimensions where compassion resides, where acceptance and love resides, where non-judgment resides, where healing resides, where love resides. So you all have an opportunity to get yourself out of the pickle of low frequency by practicing forgiveness. You cannot, however, force someone else to practice forgiveness, but we will tell you that when you begin to raise your frequency, everything around you must respond to that frequency elevation. And you will begin to see different behaviors in other people. You will begin to see different people coming into your lives. You will begin to see seemingly miraculous transformations of mind in others. But this cannot be your motivation. Your motivation, your responsibility is to learn to manage your own mind, to learn to manage your own belief systems, and to learn to love in all of its multifaceted ways so that you may get yourself up into a more influential position connected to true power, which is a vertical experience. It is not a horizontal experience. In the lower realms, the ego and the body seek for power in others, to overcome them, to get things from them, to manipulate them, to control them, to kill them. As you raise your frequency, you step up into the realms of true power where you are influencing from a place of love, from a place of compassion. And in that place, you will wield much more influence eventually. But the beginning of that process is the most challenging one, and the one that a lot of you are involved in right now, which is going inside, seeing what's going on in there, seeing where you're unloving, judgmental, shameful, guilt-ridden, fearful. You must see what you are doing first before you can change anyone else by your influence. You are going to emit a frequency and get back to you evidence of that frequency. That's what's happening here. So if you want to get back a different reaction response from others, then you must emit a different frequency. And that is the only thing that we want you to focus on at this time, because the world is effect. It is not cause. You are cause. Your mind is cause. Your collective minds are the collective consciousness that is creating the world in which you are experiencing yourself. So if you want to see a change in the world, change your mind and change your heart. And if you want to see more acceptance coming from others, be more loving and accepting of yourself and others, and it will miraculously bring that reflection back to you in the form of people, places, and things that are more loving and accepting. We will return shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a bit of time getting used to that, though, to really get into the mindset of that. But it's definitely very well worth it when you do.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been doing the course and practicing these things for a while, and I keep encountering beliefs and ideas in my mind that are unloving, and I know they're unloving because they feel really bad compared to the peace that I'm used to experiencing. So it really does take patience. And I think that's one of the things that for new people, if they've never encountered A Course in Miracles, or if they haven't read the books that I've channeled, is just start where you're interested. Start with book 1 and entertaining the idea of investigating these things, and just allow yourself space and time to feel your way through what you're being guided to do, because that's really how I began this journey. The Course in Miracles was plopped in my lap at a time in my life when I was very unhappy. Everything had gone wrong in my life, and I was really struggling. And when I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop reading it. I didn't understand a word of it. So don't expect to understand it necessarily when you first pick it up. But I started to have new experiences of peace. I started to have I had a couple of out-of-body experiences very early on in doing the course. I started to want different things, experience different things. And because it was quite a sudden shift, I knew that it was to do with this book that I was studying. So I just kept with it, and I didn't start channeling until I had been really practicing these principles for 12 years. So I was very patient, I was very dedicated, but I kept with it for 12 years because of the positive things it brought me. I went from being very, very dysfunctional in my world to having a much calmer, more peaceful experience. But as I said, I always get demonstrations where I'm off track, and I just apply these principles. And I hate being out of peace. It's the worst feeling in the world when you've had peace to lose it. And so, but what I realized when I first started, of course, is that I was never at peace. And so these new experiences of peace were really beautiful. Yeah, so next question.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's from Lana. I really like this question. How to open our third eye? That's a very classic question in the spiritual community now.
Yes, okay. I'll bring Ananda through. We're with you again, dear ones. Most people, when they're asking to open their third eye, have no idea what they're asking. What you're asking for is increased psychic abilities. But we will say, having increased psychic abilities, if you are fearful, is not a good idea. Why is it not a good idea to have increased psychic abilities if you're fearful? The ego mind will tell you, well, it will be much better. I could avoid whatever it was I'm afraid of. I would know when bad things were going to happen. This would be a good thing for me to know. But what we want you to know is that if you're holding a frequency of fear, your increased psychic abilities are going to magnetize to you non-physical beings that are in the frequency of fear. So you can see that this might not be a good idea. What is the third eye? Well, there are two aspects to the third eye. There's the energetic aspect, and then there's the physical aspect. So we've given you our little warning at the beginning there, something for you to think about. The physical aspect of the third eye is the pineal gland, and this is buried deep in the interior of your physical head. And it is the physical structure that is manufactured by the energetic center, that is the brow chakra. That is the energetic center that creates the physical aspect of your body that you will consider the third eye, the pineal gland. So your chakra system is an energy system. It's an energy system that manufactures your body. It is the energy system that holds a frequency based on whether energy is flowing or whether energy is blocked, that will manufacture a body to reflect that flowing or blocked energy. So if you have a blocked pineal gland, that means that there is something restraining that part of the chakra system. And that part of the chakra system is thought. That part of the chakra system is your imagination. That part of the chakra system is what is manipulated in your society through religious training and your education system. It is the part of your energy system that is creative. When you daydream, you're using that part of your energy system. So in your society that punishes children for daydreaming, Johnny, stop looking out of the window, a teacher might say, as a young boy gazes out of the window wishing he was somewhere else. He's actually being very creative. He's using that third eye energy system, that chakra, to imagine doing something he wants to do rather than sit in the class that he's been forced into. So teaching children to read too early is a way of shutting down this this particular chakra, and consequently shutting down the physical structure that you call the pineal gland. Why? Well, little children are very much in touch with dream world, the spirit world, nature. If you give a child the opportunity, it would much rather jump in a puddle than sit in front of a television. But for many children, they don't have a choice. They're stuck in a house or an apartment with their parents who want them to be quiet, so the television is used for that purpose, and that will shut down the pineal gland. Back to teaching a child to read. There is a magical period from 0 to 7 or 8 years old in children where they are still exploring the spirit world, They're still exploring imaginariums, we'll call them, environments that overly intellectualized, trained adults can't access. The realm of the imaginary friend, the realm of light beings, the realm of fairies. Children will engage with these kinds of environments when they are given the freedom to be children, when they are allowed to run free range children, they call them. But if you start indoctrinating a child into the intellectual, into the symbolic language of reading, you begin to direct that free-flowing consciousness into a place that is much more constrained, much more restrictive. And it is that process that begins to close down the pineal gland, the imagination. If you look at a child who's sitting at a table and their parents are forcing them to look at letters and read at the age of, say, 4, compared to a child who's out playing with sticks and chasing the dog and eating things they don't know what they are, but they look interesting, interacting with the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. From a spiritual point of view, the child running amok outside is going to be far more evolved than the one that is being forced into this narrow focus of learning symbols to represent ideas and concepts, mental concepts. So this is the first place that all of you can assist in expanding the imagination and the creativity of your society, You can give your children much more time outside and much less focused attention on the intellect while they are very young. Now, the first thing that will come up with many of you will be a reaction that says, well, that's not going to go very well. That's not going to go down very well at school. And we will say, well, each of you as parents in this expanding consciousness must begin to assess whether you are going to conform to the school's value system or a true value system of encouraging consciousness evolution, love, and the expansion of the minds of your little ones. This is one of the great difficulties of your society, is that the parents are so indoctrinated into fearing that their children will become failures. The parents are indoctrinated into going into a 40-hour-a-week job so they cannot be at home to teach their children. This is a great dilemma for many of you. But we will say, start where you are. When you have a child, let us say, that comes home from school, don't ask them how much homework they've got. Give them something to eat. Take them for a walk to the park. Give them what you can give them that will encourage them to feel good, to feel loved, to feel happy. Make sure that there's lots of creative materials around. Disconnect your cable. Make sure that they're only watching videos or movies that are loving in nature, and we will suggest you watch them first alone before you make that decision that a particular kind of film is kind when it is in fact indoctrinating them into your system. What can you do personally? You can stop thinking. Thinking is one of the lower frequency activities of the mind, the brain. Now you will say, well, that doesn't make sense. I thought thinking was good. Well, you will notice that it is your thinking that causes you to fear. It is your thinking that causes you to judge. I don't like what they just did. You will think that thinking is constructive somehow. We can tell you that a healthy diet is going to help open that particular part of the physical structure. The physical structure, remember, is fed by what you eat, by what you think about, by what you do with your body. It is a multifaceted operation to open the pineal gland and the third eye. But we refer back to our first notion that you should not be doing that intentionally and in a focused way if you are not dealing with your fears and your judgments. Your fears and your judgments are going to set a tone that will prevent good incoming information via that newly opened third eye. So we say prepare yourself spiritually first by training your mind into loving thoughts and ideas, forgiving yourself and others for the sins that you think you've all committed, and getting your mind into a state of peace, relative peace. We do not expect you to be masters, but when you realize that these great grudges that you hold and these fears that you nurture are the beacon that you are sending out through that particular part of the body, we will say it is good that some of you have shut this part of the body down, this center down. So we address this in our books, of course, but we encourage you to listen to that desire. If that desire is there, that means something in you is becoming more interested in spirituality. But make sure that as you create more, as you imagine more, as you give your children more freedom, because in giving your children more freedom, you will see where your conditioning is too. Children are great teachers. When they want to play instead of doing homework, you will see your belief in homework. So challenge that. We're not saying don't do the homework. Obviously, if your child's in the school system, you're going to have to negotiate your way through that decision. And some of you feel that you are not able to change that decision to put your children in standard school system. But for those of you who can shift and change your children out of that indoctrination system into a more open-hearted and more open-minded system, we would say go ahead and do that. For your education system is one of the great liabilities that you have to overcome as you recondition your mind, as you recondition your thoughts. But the third eye is that place of connection to spirit. There are physical structures within the body that facilitate connection to the divine. And they are all supported by your health. They are all supported by the food you eat and the water you drink. We say water is a very, very important part of your transmission and receiving system. So make sure that you are drinking lots of water. Make sure that it's not fluoridated water. That is a chemical that will impinge upon your ability to create, to think freely and imaginatively, and to express yourself. That is what it is designed to do. There's nothing to do with your teeth, despite what you are told by the systems that infiltrate your water with that chemical. So if you are curious about the third eye, start with your perceptions, start with your judgments, learning what they are, learning to release them, learning to step back from them, and do it with guidance. The disordered mind, the distorted mind cannot fix itself because it is using its own distorted thoughts to assess the situation. Begin the lessons of A Course in Miracles if you want to open your third eye. We know we sound like a broken record, but it is the safest and most judicious way, the quickest way of transforming the house of cards that is your self-concept. So we will clarify that a little bit. Your self-concept is who you believe yourself to be. And none of you are who you think you are. You are not bodies. You are spiritual beings. You are divine aspects of God mind, believing that you have become separate from that God mind. And you are not separate from that God mind. You are completely connected. But you are given incredible creative powers. You are given an incredible creative mind. And it has gone off track. So these teachings and these lessons are all designed to get you back on track, to get you seeing yourself as the divine aspect of God mind that you are, and to get you to understand the incredible creativity that is at your fingertips. You have made your bodies. You have created the lives that you are living. This is all you doing that. So you can see that you are very, very powerful indeed. What you want to do is you want to become powerful creators who are conscious, powerful creators who are loving, and powerful creators who understand how this system works. And that is why we are here. That is why we are bringing you these teachings. And that is why we are encouraging you to connect in with this group and to begin your practice today. We will speak to you again shortly.
Nice.
Is your pineal gland open, Ken?
That's a good question. I would say, I think not. I think that I think it's kind of open, but then kind of shut at the same time. I think I do see some light sometimes, but it's not a permanent thing. It kind of comes in and out a little bit. Yeah. But I can see when spirits come and visit me, I can see that when I shut my eye, I can see like there's lots of stuff happening within my vision. So I don't think it's completely shut on everyone. I think it's like degrees of openness, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like mine's shut because I will talk to people who see spirits more than I do or have more visions or whatever it is. But I think there's also sort of a personal way that each of us have communication with spirit. Mine seems to be in a particular kind of way, and other people can be in other ways. So I think it's sort of, we've got to be open about how it's going to manifest as well.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel spirit. So that's one of
Yes.
my ways. So I can feel when something's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, next question.
Yeah. So next question. I can see that the next on the list here is kind of, I'm going to join it with some of the questions in the group here because it's very related.
Okay.
So Pankos is writing, I want to know if the battle within my family is a contrast and how I can bring harmony and stop judging each other. It's not good to create more bad karma. How can I heal my family toxic relationship? If I move out from home, it will be better for me and for others, ? And then Irene also says, how does one deal with a family member who is very abusive, which is very related? And also Nonku, sorry. My dilemma is my husband doesn't have the same insight that I have, and we argue. He's completely blind to what's going on in the world. What do I do? So it's kind of related. It's kind of like family dynamics and things like that.
How do you deal with troublesome people?
Yeah, which is pretty much what the course is all about. So
yes, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what Jesus has to say. Your vision of reality is actually what the problem is rather than the people. So these questions all approach this issue from the same place, which is the dualistic place, is that, first of all, that these people are separate from you, that these people are the problem, and that the battling that is going on has nothing to do with you, that it has to do with the other. So in family systems, what you have is a frequency reflection. You all have frequency reflections. Your world is a frequency reflection. Your family is the most intense and close frequency reflection that you are given to work with. And they are unavoidable. This is one of the great gifts of your family. They are unavoidable. You have to keep seeing them. You have to keep talking to them. You have to keep negotiating with them. And when you see family systems that are dysfunctional and you're a part of that family system, the first thing that has to be accepted into the mind is that this is a reflection somehow of an aspect of yourself that you're unaware of. Now, this is not what any of you want to hear. When you're in a separated, dualistic level of consciousness, there are some assumptions that are made. First of all, the first assumption is, I'm the good guy. That's the first assumption of the dualistic mind. I'm the good guy. And out here is a lot of troublemakers and a lot of difficulties, and I have to try and figure out how to manage them. This is how the dualistic world is set up. It's a world of projection. That means that you are putting a lot of your stuff on other people so that you can appear to be the good guy. The other side effect of putting your stuff on other people is that it gives you a semblance of peace. It's not real peace. It takes a lot of work to judge others and to blame others and to wish they were different. But it keeps your mind off you. It keeps your mind from going within. And this is how the dualistic, separated world is maintained, is by people judging others, by projecting their fears and their beliefs and their value systems on others, and refusing to go within. This is how the world of war and disparity and friction is maintained. So it's only usually when you've tried everything that you can try that you begin to ask the question, Is there another way? Is there something else I can do to deal with this very, very difficult being that is present in my world? Now, the ego will give you a couple of options: to attack them, to judge them, which is the same thing, or to leave them, to run away from them, to isolate yourself from them. And generally speaking, the negative feelings of being in a battle, because that is what a lot of you are in, the negative feelings of being in a battle will subside when those people disappear from your presence. And so it seems a logical thing to do. But in the world of projection, in the world of separation, the aspects of you that were being reflected back to you must now be recreated somewhere else, because that is the lesson, that is the form that you are given to work with the separated consciousness. Now, some of these principles for newcomers who are not used to non-dualistic ideas may seem confusing. My husband is a separate person. My husband is a jerk. My husband needs to change. If that is the litany that's going on in your mind, then you are going to have to leave a situation if you are unwilling to change your point of view, because you cannot force someone else into changing their behavior. That leaves you with your own behavior, and then you only have two choices: I put up with the suffering, or I get out. So this is why you have such a high divorce rate in your society. This is why you have many isolated people in your society, because people are functioning within the dualistic, ego-driven, projection-created world. There is only so much you can do in that frequency. You cannot change anyone else, you know that, but that is what people are trying to do. When they're fighting with someone else, they're saying, you have this idea, I have this idea, I am only going to be happy when you agree with my idea. That is a war, and it does not work. Just check out your world. Just check out the division in political views and the divisions in families and marriages. It doesn't work. Fighting with other people does not work. When you turn the other cheek, what you are doing is saying, I am going to change me. I am going to look at how combative I am. Because if you are surrounded by combative people, that means you are combative and you are in denial of that truth. You cannot be surrounded by combative people and not be emitting a combative frequency. It's impossible. The world reflects you. Your family reflects you. And it is only in accepting that truth that you will begin to turn from the battle externally. You will turn the other cheek, and you will refuse to do what you've always done, which is to fight back or to provoke a confrontation. And you will go inside and you will ask yourself the question, if I'm seeing these battles constantly out here, and this world is a reflection of my internal condition, and these people are in my face and front and center in my life, then there must be something in me that is battling. Let me go inside and take a look. And that is the first step in healing your family dramas, in healing your marital discords, is to say, I am the creator of this play, and these are characters on the stage of my life, and they are reading my script. And that is how you become an empowered transformer of not only your personal experience, but your family. Because when you address the combative, warring aspect of your own consciousness, which will seem to be their fault, but when you come back into your own internal world and start asking yourself the question, am I combative? Am I looking for a fight? Am I arguing? Then you will say, I believe that fighting is going to bring me what I want. Oh my goodness, that's what my family is demonstrating. They're all fighting, trying to get what they want. I'm the same as them. They are my reflection. And then you become empowered. Then you become able to go inside and say, what am I accusing my partner of? What am I accusing my family of? Am I doing that? But as long as you are projecting, that means blaming, judging, separating, saying they're individuals, they've got nothing to do with me, you will never go inside and ask that question. You will never go inside and inquire into your own consciousness. And that is where the healing has to take place first, because the unevolved, dualistic, judging mind will not do that. It will not go inside. There's a higher part of you that is able to see that what you're doing is not working. And that higher part is the part that you are going to start a dialogue with. The mind is split. It is split between spirit and ego. But you are not taught how the mind works. You are not taught that the unloving thoughts in your mind, the hateful thoughts in your mind, the judgmental thoughts in your mind are coming from the separated consciousness, the fearful, materialistic consciousness. The loving thoughts, the ones that are seeking peace, how can I heal this? That is spirit. That is your true self seeking resolution. And that is the part that you must listen to. You must begin to discern which thoughts are coming from the fearful ego, which thoughts are coming from my true self, which is aligned with love. That is the process that all of the beings that are studying A Course in Miracles are working on. They are working on how to interpret the thoughts and ideas in their minds, and to come to see that some of the thoughts and ideas in their minds need to be ignored and not acted upon, and other thoughts and beliefs and ideas in the mind need to be strengthened. So those stories you hear, the devil and the angel on one shoulder, or the white wolf and the dark wolf, which wolf are you going to feed? If you keep feeding the ego and the dark wolf, you will keep seeing that manifested out in front of you, in your families, in your bodies, in your society. If you begin to feed the loving animal, the loving part of your consciousness, and stop acting as if the unloving thoughts and ideas are true and need to be reinforced, if you start stepping away from them, then the spiritual part of the conversation within your own consciousness will become clearer and clearer and more empowered. But it is a process, and you must, as beings raised in a Western world, understand that you have been taught that war and battle and arguing and fighting and forcing and bullying is the way you've been taught to behave. Look at your school systems. Little children who want to run and play are forced into shoes and clothes and seats and timetables that are excruciatingly painful for them. This is an attack. This is creating a victim. This is the perpetrator-victim mentality being inculcated into your mind. And when you become an adult, you will become the enforcer. You will become the one that is insisting on getting their way, because you have been trained that when you get to be a grown-up, you get to be a bully. You get to boss children around. You get to be in charge of those that are not as strong as you. This is a powerful transformation of the fundamental beliefs of your mind and how you look at reality. It is not something that is easy to do. However, it is very simple. Your guidance system is a system that speaks to you all the time in feeling. Spirit always speaks to you in positive feeling. I really like this. This is interesting to me. I feel really good when I'm engaged in this activity. The egoic consciousness is more fearful. It is more materialistic. It is more grasping. It is more judgmental. And generally speaking, it will make you feel bad. It will make you feel limited. It will make you feel fearful. It will make you hesitate. This, however, is not always clear in the beginning because of the power of your indoctrinations. And so you must be willing to go through the lessons of A Course in Miracles to clarify the mind so that you begin to understand your part in distorting the world. That is really what those 365 lessons are. They are a doorway into your consciousness to show you where you're off track, to show you where your big resentments are, to show you where your confusion is. And it reveals to you your part in the distortions that you are experiencing. And it begins to give you a stairway up the frequency ladder so that you can begin to reinterpret your experiences accurately. So for those of you that have combative families or combative marriages or very, very difficult situations, start the lessons, start looking inside for where you are holding that frequency to. Because it is in that realization that you will begin to work on the cause and not the effect. We will speak to you again shortly.
Yeah.
It's their fault. It's not me.
It's not me. It's their fault. But I have to say that families are the most challenging. That's when you really can learn a lot of stuff. I find that some of the things that I'm doing now is that, because my thing has been like I'm being talked at and stuff like that. So I'm focusing also in the midst of it. I'm trying to like stay sane by just having a loving thought about them while they're talking, whatever. Just to not get, you know, sucked into whatever they're talking about, because sometimes it's, you know, not so relevant, maybe.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it as frequency and go, whoa, I'm trying to get my frequency up, and this conversation is not a frequency I want to get in, I would often just kind of drift off into some meditation in my mind and not really participate in that. And if it got too much, then I'd be like, I got to go, you know, I got to go out of, you know, I wouldn't tell people, I don't tell people because they don't understand if they're not in the practice that we're in. And it's not it's not my job to force my practice on anyone else. They're having their own experience and they've got their own free will. And I think that maybe addresses the lady whose husband has a different belief system than her, is that when I was involved with people who had a very different belief system than me, I would do my best to find common ground so that if I was having to have a conversation with them, then I would be trying to share the thoughts that I did know they had. So, for example, I worked with someone once who had a very negative mindset, who was very ill all the time and liked to talk about their sicknesses. And this was when I was practicing A Course in Miracles, before I was channeling, but he was a potter. He'd abandoned his creativity. He was depressed, but I would get him to talk about his past when he was being a potter. And you could see this transformation in him because he then could access a time in his life when he was really happy. And I would really try and get him, I'd really kind of try and milk that situation and get him like, what was your favorite glaze to work with? What was your favorite medium? And he would forget all his negativities and go back in time. And to me, that was a really loving thing to do. Instead of arguing about his negativity, I would use what I knew about the mind and get him to go to that place where he and I could connect, because we're both creatives. So that's the kind of thing I would do if I had no choice but to have a conversation. I would try and get someone on their passion, on their subject. And you could look at it and say, oh, well, I was really compromising myself. But I don't think I was. I was actually practicing being loving with someone who didn't know how to. So to me, that was a beautiful opportunity to use my knowledge about how the mind worked to get someone else's frequency up where I could tolerate it. So like there are things like that you can do. I mean, I'm certainly not a marriage expert. I've had 2 failed marriages. This is one of the things that has been the bane of my existence, but that's okay. You know, that's one of my projects this lifetime. But that's what I would do with people, other people who were out of accord with me or not on the path or whatever. I would try and find that common ground.
That's a good tip. That's a very good tip. All right. Should we do one more question?
Actually, just one more thing I want to share. There was a lady who I worked with who never stopped talking, and I would work with her for 8 hours a day. And I timed her once. The longest break between her talking was 3 seconds. That's as long as she could go. And 4 or 5 hours into a shift with this lady, I was beside myself, wanting some peace and quiet. But I would drive up to work, and sometimes Ananda would say to me, the only way that person can find any peace of mind is to talk and get it out of her head. And when they told me that, I still ended up putting headphones in a certain part of the day. But early on in the shift with her, I would be able to see past the behavior and go, you know what? She's just trying to relieve the suffering she has in this crazy mind of hers. And talking aloud. So it just allowed me to be a bit more compassionate with the behavior that was driving me up the wall. So we have, you know, these people can be very, very good teachers for disciplining our own minds. And ultimately, that is our only job, is to discipline our own minds and to become as loving as we can, given where we are, because we aren't perfect.
What? We're not perfect?
Let's do another. We're not perfect.
No. Oh, damn. Okay, so this is the beautiful question that so many of our subscribers really loved. So I'm God, now what?
So I'm God, now what? Okay.
It's perfect from you saying we're not perfect, and then you saying, so I'm God, now what?
Now what? Yeah, okay. Let's see what Jesus has to say about this. You are a divine aspect of God mind that has forgotten that you are. So you are God in that sense. You are an aspect of that powerful, creative, loving force that has separated itself out from the knowledge of that truth. So that's the first place you want to start, is I am a divine aspect of God mind. I am an individuated creator, a powerful creator that is aligned with love, but I've forgotten it and I've been trained out of it. So this is the first realization. Yes, I am that. I am a divine aspect of God mind, and I don't feel like it. Why don't I feel like it? Because I don't act in accord with that truth every day. I judge people, would love judge people. What would God do? Even if you have an old God paradigm, and that it can be tricky, because in that old paradigm, the God was considered to be very judgmental. But really, if you are looking at others as bodies, then you are acting out of accord with the truth that you are a divine aspect of God mind, because that means you're non-physical. That means that you are spirit. That means that you are originally made from love, for love, to demonstrate love. That is your job. And you have become separated from that truth. So that is how you want to begin to address the now what. Am I acting in accord with that knowledge? That I am eternal? Am I fearful of death? Am I acting as if death is the end of the road? Am I believing in the body as who I am? Am I believing that others are their bodies? So if you are very objectifying of others' bodies, for example, that would be a place that you would ask this question. Am I acting as if I am a divine aspect of God mind, an eternal spiritual being? No, I'm objectifying that person's body and saying that they are their body. Maybe I should address this issue. Am I afraid of death? Am I hooked into years of grieving the death of somebody, and that demonstration shows you that you're not in accord with that truth, that you're an eternal spiritual being, which means that they are an eternal spiritual being too. They are not their bodies. They didn't die. They've moved on to another level of consciousness. So really, again, it is about this self-inquiry. Where are you out of accord with truth? How do you know you're out of accord with truth? There is a negative feeling going on. This is the, once again, fundamental way that you can assess your own interpretation of your experience. Is there fear there? Is there a sadness there? Is there anger there? Is there anxiety there? These negative emotions are your feedback from spirit saying you are off track in this part of your worldview, in your self-concept perhaps. So if you have a voice in your head that says, I'm not doing very well in this world, I'm a failure, and you feel bad, that's your feedback system saying, it's not how spirit sees you. It's not how God sees you. You are experiencing a temporary physical journey in a body, or seemingly so, we will say, and it is not going to last forever, and it is not who you truly are. You were consciousness before that body came into being. You are temporarily housed in that physical structure, and you will be consciousness once that physical structure has served its purpose, its learning purpose. So this is all you have to do. You are God. That is truth. But you did not create God. You were created. You were created in the image of God, a benevolent, ever-loving force that permeates everything. And that force that brought you into existence did not create your body, but the mistaken idea that you're separate created that body. When you evolve out of the belief in separation, you will no longer need a body. So don't get confused that your body was made by God. Your body is a demonstration of separation from that which you would call oneness or love or God. And that is why you get so confused by the body, because you believe it is who you are. You believe it will get you what you want. You believe that it is valuable. None of these things are so, but you are taught them in your society. So you must go back to your guidance system. When I do this, how do I feel? When I think this, how do I feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Do I get a plummeting, negative emotional response? Or do I get an invigorating, happy, good feeling? That is how you know if you're in alignment with that original source self, because that original source self is connected to you like an umbilical cord is connecting mother and baby. Some of these physical manifestations that you make are very, very reflective of the truth of your consciousness experience. When the baby's in utero, it's connected to support, food, clarification, warmth, love. What happens when you come into separation? The cord is cut, you are floundering, you feel as if you are alone, but in truth, in spirit, that cord is there, and it is your guidance system, and it is that still small voice inside of you that knows what is right for you, that knows what feels good for you, that knows what is guiding you from your heart space. So if you are God, what now? Go into your heart space. What speaks to you positively? What excites you? What draws you? What intrigues you? If something repels you, then step away from it. If something is upsetting you, then change the way you're looking at it. It is something to do with your perception of that thing. Now, there are some that would say if something repulses you, that you should love it. Well, we are talking from the beginner phase here. We don't want you to go delving into the darkest, most terrifying parts of your mind unsupervised. Trust us, they will come up in your life experience. but they will come up when you are ready and trained enough to deal with them. So some of you have deep traumas. Some of you have negative experiences that are very difficult for you to deal with. We want you to know that on this journey inward towards love, towards home, those things will eventually come up, but they will come up when your mind is in a more stable place, when your mind is in a more aligned place. And that, after all, is what we are encouraging all of you to do here. We are encouraging all of you to align your minds with love through the practice of forgiveness, so that you are hearing your true self express. A lot of you that are in a judgmental and fearful and separated mentality don't have clear guidance. And that's why you can make very, very poor decisions that create chaos in your life, because you are not at peace. You are not in alignment. You are not listening to the correct voice through no fault of your own. You are deeply indoctrinated in this society into listening to others' voices. So that is really where we want you to start, is to acknowledge that you come from love, for love, and your purpose is to remove everything from your mind that is unloving. That is an assignment indeed, but you are given and are being given lots of support for that journey. The first place we want you to start is lesson 1 of A Course in Miracles. The other place we'd like you to start is with reading the texts that this being has brought through. They have been brought through in an order that makes sense given your society. So some of you may steer away from the first or second book and feel that those books don't speak to you, but don't be so sure. Don't judge a book by its cover or title. Trust that book 1 was brought through for those of you in this society who are struggling with that particular subject. Some of you who are in this group and have been in this group for a while have seen the aversion or the shame or the guilt that comes up when you pick up the book about sexuality. What a beautiful teaching that is from your guidance system. That your judgment or your fear of being seen to be reading that book gives you such negative feedback. That means you're off track. It means that you're not looking at this properly. The same thing in the second book, the book about celebrities. There are people who envision themselves as spiritual that say, well, that's superficial. I don't want to read a book that's written by celebrities. They are of no value. Celebrities are divine aspects of God mind too, and they have been put front and center in your society because they often have powerful lessons and messages for society. To get your attention, Spirit will bring in a being that has a powerful lesson to learn in a particular way, and it will put it front and center on the stage of your celebrity culture so that you get to see it in person. And some of these beings have very, very powerful messages. So don't worry about this process. Open your mind to the belief, the opportunity, the potentiality that you don't know everything, and that you have been drawn to this group for a reason, and that there's some information in these books and practices that may benefit you. You are not here by accident. None of you are in this group by accident. It is the language, it is the path, it is the doorway that your consciousness has brought to you to offer you an opportunity. So do take it if you possibly can. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I am here to share with you the teachings, the same teachings that I brought to my disciples and my students so many years ago on the earth plane. They are no different now. I didn't teach you not to judge to make you a good person. I taught you not to judge so that you could align with the true self that is within your consciousness. And that will bring you a connection to information and knowledge and influence that you cannot get through the dualistic, judgmental, fearful, and materialistic world. Look around you. See what your society is promoting. Generally speaking, you should do the opposite of that. Not totally, but predominantly. We are very, very happy that you have joined us here in this conversation, and we hope that some of these dialogues have helped you in clarifying your own questions today. We will speak to you again soon.
Wow. So we are on overtime. So I guess we're always trying to answer as many questions as we can, but obviously usually there's too many questions for us to answer in 1.5 hours. So what we're doing is that we're trying to let people vote for them, so that we're answering the people that are voted highest the first. So sometimes we switch it around in these live sessions and jump around, but that we haven't done that today. Yeah. Do you have anything to say, Tina, before I go on to our announcement?
I just want to thank everyone who's with us today. It's always wonderful to have visitors. So thank you for all those people that have stepped out of your comfort zone and joined us for this conversation. I really love these channeling sessions. The questions and answers are always very, very interesting. The principles are always the same, but it's incredible to me how varied the answers can be, and how just looking at something in a different way can allow you to see something that you didn't see in the previous week. So do consider joining us. We have a lot of fun. It's building an amazing community. This week, Ken, for example, has been hanging out with several people from the group that were channeling and in England, and it's really becoming a beautiful community. And I think that was one of the most unexpected things for me, is making friends with people, getting to meet people, and having ongoing conversations and relationships. So thank you all for being here. The regular subscribers, of course, I love all you guys and enjoy our Facebook interactions, and all of the visitors too. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so we are now giving you a chance to join us. I mean, the people that are not that are new and are not a subscriber, we have a year subscription fee that costs $333 a year, and what that includes is 2 live streamings like this each month. You get emailed a week in advance usually. We store the 10 live streamings so you can rewatch them anytime afterwards. And also there's transmissions from Ananda and Jesus. You can invite them in and stuff. There's also the Facebook group, as Tina mentioned. And by being a premium member, you also get 60% discount on all new videos that are coming. Not the ones that have been, but the new ones that are coming. And also any discounts on new things that are coming, you will also get a special treat like that. It's kind of
and the premium members also get first dibs on any retreats that are coming up. So you will always know first. So if there's limited spaces, you will be given first option for any of those events as well.
Absolutely. And the discount is $222 for a year. So that's a substantial cut in price. And I will send you a link on the chat for all the information where you can go and read more about it. So it's basically channelingjesus.com. You can go there, and there is a premium subscription there, and you can just click that button, and then there is a coupon code, which is bliss and love, that you can type in to get the discount. So
that code is going to be sent where?
So that is going to be sent to all the newsletter subscribers and the people that are not subscribers. So if there's anyone that is on a monthly subscription that wants to take advantage of going up to the yearly, I would suggest that they wait until their subscription is about to run out, and then cancel a subscription, and then re-subscribe with the coupon code. there is in the support page, there is a video about that, so that they can go through, and I'll explain how to do that.
Okay.
Anything
So
else?
if they cancel in the middle of the month, it confuses the system. It's better to wait until the end.
No.
No?
The thing is, you can cancel in the middle of the month. The only thing that happens is that if you have, let's say, 2 weeks until it runs out, basically you're
paying
losing
unnecessarily for it.
Yeah, you're paying unnecessarily. You're just losing 2 weeks, basically.
Okay, cool.
So you can do that. You can do that, of course, if you.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you probably in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.